Hi, the day is April 28th. It is about 5 o'clock p.m. That's 2016. I'm sitting here with Mr. Bill DeWolf. Mr. DeWolf has allowed me to interview him about his services in World War II. So I guess to start us off, could you tell us a little bit about when and where you were born and your younger life?
I was born in Cambridge, Massachusetts, 1924. At the age of 2, we crossed the country. An older brother who was 4, or he was 4 and I was 2, and my parents. We crossed the country in an old open Oakland and stopped at farmhouses all the way across the United States where the farmers would come out and see my mom and dad with 2 little boys, and they'd give us a meal and a place to sleep. It took us a full month to cross the country. And we lit up in Townsend, Montana, 1926. And then from Townsend, we moved into Helena in 1929. But while in Townsend, my dad, he learned the meat business. And then we came to Helena, and he worked for some folks. Well, Poplin and Cole had a meat market. He worked for him. And then for Coy Painter, Painter's Grocery, worked for him, and then he started his own businesses. First meat market on the back of a Model T Ford, and what we would do is buy a beef, had it processed out in the valley by Fred May, and then we bring it home and we cut it, quarter it, take it up and put it on the back of the Model T, and we go from door to door and we sold that beef. And he went broke 7 different times, but he kept trying. And finally, he got a job with Safeway and became one of Safeway's leading managers. Well, 1941, now before that, we came to Helena. I went to grade school at the Broadwater School. I went there for 4 years, and then 2 years up at Hawthorne School, and then Helena High School. And I graduated from Helena High School in 1942. Made 7 athletic awards, 2 in football, 2 in basketball, and 3 in track as a pole vaulter. And then from there, the war broke out, December 7th, 41. So the whole senior class went down and signed up to go to war. But we could not, they would not take us until we graduated and had to be 18 years old and had to have the parents' consent. So I went into the military January 13th, 1943. Boot camp at Farragut, Idaho. And from Farragut, I was honor man, Company 50. And from there, I went to Seattle, Washington for amphibious training. And then from Seattle, they went to San Diego for more amphibious training. And then, of course, was assigned to the 2nd Marine Division. And from the 2nd Marine Division, we hit the islands in the South Pacific. Our first major battle was Tarawa, right on the equator. And the bloodiest battle of the South Pacific. And the poor Marines lost more men in 76 hours than the entire Guadalcanal campaign. And the reason for that, we took the 2nd Marines into the islands, but we got hung up on the coral reef about 50 yards from shore. This war, they had been planning for years and years and years, the Japanese that is. They had trenches dug clear across the islands and pillboxes with walls a good 5 feet thick. But anyhow, going in, the poor Marines had to disembark, and they waded ashore with water up to their knees toward the islands. And they got about 25 yards from shore, and the Japanese came out of those pillboxes and out of those trenches, and they just mowed them down just like dominoes. And as I say, we lost more men in 76 hours than the entire Guadalcanal campaign. And then finally the CBs came in, and off of the LSTs they rolled their front end loaders, and then they put the blade up with the front end loaders and headed towards shore with the 2nd Marines following them. And they came to where the fire was coming from. Out of those trenches, they just put the scoop down and buried the Japs alive. And then with flamethrowers and hand grenades, we got into the pillboxes. And finally, as I say, it took 76 hours to conquer the island, BDO Island. And they called it Red Beach 1 and Red Beach 2 because of all of the dead poor Marines. And then from there, 80 miles down the road, we hit another little island called Apamama, and this was also in the Gilberts. And Apamama was the treasure state, or the treasure island of the South Pacific. In fact, many years ago, Robert Louis Stevenson lived on Apamama for 3 years, and he wrote the book Treasure Island. And it was a beautiful island. And about 3/4 of a mile wide and about 19 miles long. And of that, there were 27 Imperial Japanese. And when we hit the shore, the commander of the Japanese forces had them lay in a trench, and they committed harikiri by pulling the trigger of their rifle with their toe, with the rifle pointed to their brain. And there was not a shot fired to conquer the island of Apamama. And then from there, we went into the Marshall Islands. And in the Marshalls, there was Kwajalein and Eniwetok. And they were, well, all battles are rough, but they were pretty bad, but not as nearly what Tarawa was. And then on from the Marshalls, we hit the Marianas. We hit Guam, Saipan, and Tinian. And while in Guam, they thought I'd had enough combat, so they needed submarine sailors. And I volunteered, passed the test, and by golly, I was sent back to Hawaii, went through the diving tank, and I passed that, then on to New London, Connecticut, where I was assigned as what we call them the old pig boats, which was the diesel electric boat. And that sub-squadron 6, and we patrolled the East Coast for quite a while, for about 2 years. And then from there, the war ended. And so consequently, my dad had bought the Union Market. Well, he wanted us to come home. I had a brother in the Marines, a brother in the Army, and me in the Navy. And we all came home, went to work for him at the Union Market. And then we finally bought them out in 1949. And then we ran that. And in the meantime, I had joined the Montana National Guard, commanded the 3669 Ordnance Company. I was the third commander of the 3669 Ordnance Company, Montana National Guard. And then from there, we started the Army Reserve. And so I went over to the Army Reserve, and I was with them until I retired. And I ended up with 35 years service. That's active, and that's National Guard and Army Reserve. And that's about the story of my life.
I recall you mentioning you met your brother in a bar.
Oh yeah. While in the submarine service, Doolin in Connecticut, my brother was a gunner on the New Mexico battle wagon. And they pulled into New York. And there was his favorite watering hole in New York, and it was called Guffey's, or Duffy's. Well, anyway, we all of the military would go to this one place. Well, I went up there, and with the Navy, and there was a bunch of these Marines sitting at the other end. At this one Marine in particular sitting at the bar. And he kept looking at me, and I kept looking at him. And I thought, I must have known that kid from the islands. So then I decided to go over and talk to him. And by golly, it was my younger brother George. Hadn't seen him for 9 years. And what a thrill. And then we painted the town green.
Okay, so
Had our picture taken.
so after well, what have you done since retiring from the National Guard?
Then we bought the Union Market.
Yeah,
And I ran that meat market for 45 years.
45.
And then finally, this enterprising young couple came in and wanted to buy it. And I did not want to sell it because I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the people of Helena. As a matter of fact, it was because we had 300 fantastic accounts. And it was because of them the Union Market is still there. We had many battles with Urban Renewal, and they told us that we had to get out, but they offered us nothing, and they had to find their own place to go, and very little help. So I decided we'd stay there. They were going to take us on eminent domain. Well, anyway, I didn't think they were going to, so we went to court. They beat us in the district court, and we had to move. But by golly, we went back to court, and we beat them in the Supreme Court, and the Union Market still stands there. And there's no parking. They did make a parking lot, and they did not make a roadway out of it. And then from there, of course, I raised my family, had 8 wonderful children. I've lost 2, and they got every one of them through college, and all but one. And that young lady married a plumber. So she went on to college and became a journeyman plumber. And they got a plumbing service in Billings, Martin's Plumbing Service. 2 of my boys became pilots. One was flying the B-29s during the Korean operation, and he would fly supplies into Afghanistan and bring bodies home. And then he finally retired, and what they did, the government picked him up. He went back overseas, and he flew secret missions. He had no idea who he was taking or where they were going till he got into the air. Then he get his orders. He did that for about 4 years. And then I had the other boy. He flew the F-16s in Desert Storm. He says, the fastest and the best aircraft that the United States ever built. He could turn that bugger on a dime, go straight up and he comes straight down. And he won many awards flying that F-16. He now flies for Southwest Airline, the big plane, 747s. And he loves it.
Well, thank you for agreeing to do an interview with me. It was very interesting.
Well, that's
Learned some good stuff.
yeah,
Thank you
that's
so
about
much.
all I can tell you about it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.